Welcome back, everyone. Today's deep dive is going to be pretty wild, I think.
Wow.
We're tackling Yogacara Buddhism.
Sometimes called the consciousness-only school.
Exactly. And basically, the idea is that the world as we experience it might be
More of a mental projection.
a mental projection
Yeah.
than we realize.
Absolutely.
And you guys sent in some awesome source material for this one, so.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. There's so much to unpack. We've got some pretty mind-bending concepts to tackle, like alaya.
Seeds, yeah. Which, can sound pretty out there, but
Yeah.
what I find so fascinating about Yogacara is that it's not about denying reality,
Okay.
but it's about understanding it. Its true nature in a deeper way. And believe it or not, it's actually a lot more grounded than people might think.
See, that's what I'm hoping to find out. One thing that really jumped out at me from all this research was this whole puzzle about no self and rebirth.
Yeah.
Right? Because Buddhism teaches, Anat, this idea that there's no permanent
Unchangeable.
Soul or self, but then it also teaches rebirth.
Right.
So how does that work? If there's no fixed self,
Exactly.
then who or what is being reborn?
You've hit on a really, really core dilemma that has challenged Buddhists
For centuries.
For centuries, exactly.
Yeah.
Different schools have approached this question in all sorts of ways.
Okay.
But Yogacara offers a very unique and I think thought-provoking perspective on it.
All right, color me intrigued. But before we get to Yogācāra's take on this, I'm curious about the historical context.
Okay.
Like, how did this whole mind-created world idea even come about?
That's a great question. So Yogacara didn't just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We can actually trace its development through 3 distinct phases,
Okay.
each building upon the last.
All right.
And the earliest phase we call ethical idealism, and this has roots in the Agamas,
Oh.
some of the earliest Buddhist texts. And here the emphasis is really on the mind's crucial role in actions and their karmic consequences. So it's all about intention, how our thoughts and motivations shape our actions, and ultimately the reality that we experience.
So like that saying, what you think you become kind of thing.
Exactly.
But how does that lead to a mind-created world?
It's a stepping stone. So the second phase is called epistemological idealism.
Okay.
And it takes this idea a step further.
Right.
And this is where the Aukipparma schools come in.
Okay.
And they explore how different mental states,
Emotions, biases,
right, past experience,
and our
and
baggage.
all contribute to different perceptions of the same world.
So, like, even if 2 people witness the same event, their interpretation of that event could be totally different
Exactly.
based on their own internal filters.
Precisely.
Okay.
And a great illustration of this is the Yogacara example of
One object, 4 minds.
one object, 4 minds. So imagine just a simple glass of water.
Okay.
Now, a celestial being might perceive this as a sparkling jewel.
Okay.
A human would see it as well. Water.
Yeah.
A fish would see it as its environment. Air. Right, air.
Yeah.
And a hungry ghost
Uh-oh.
would see it as pus and blood, reflecting their own state of being.
Whoa. Okay.
So it makes you wonder.
That's powerful. It really highlights how much our own perceptions color our reality.
Absolutely.
So we've gone from intentions shaping actions to mental states shaping perception. What's the next leap?
So the third phase is where Yogacara takes its most radical step
Okay.
into ontological idealism.
Okay. And that's the idea that the world itself,
Not just our perception of it,
not just our perception, but the world itself.
is a manifestation of consciousness.
All right. Now that's where things get really mind-bending for me.
I know, right?
But before we go full-on Matrix here,
Yeah.
let's dig into one of the key terms you sent over, alaya vijnana.
Yes.
What exactly is this, and how does it differ from, like, our everyday understanding of consciousness?
So alaya vijnana is a very complex term.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
It is, and it points to something much deeper than our ordinary awareness.
Okay.
It's the 8th consciousness,
Eight.
going beyond the usual 6 senses, plus the thinking mind.
Okay, so we got like sight, smell, taste, touch,
Here is
thinking mind.
And then there's an 8th one.
There's an 8th one.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
It's deep.
So if I'm understanding this right, alaya means storehouse.
Yes.
And vijnan is consciousness.
That's right.
So is Aya Vijnana like this vast hidden storehouse of consciousness?
That's a really good way to visualize it.
Okay.
Think of it as like a boundless field of potentiality.
Okay.
It's a repository of every experience you've ever had, every karmic imprint,
Really?
and even the seeds for future rebirths.
It's like a cosmic hard drive or something.
It's wild.
Yeah. So it's where like all our deepest tendencies,
habits.
even the ones we can't explain, come from.
Yeah, those things that we're like, why do I always do that?
Exactly.
It's in there.
Okay. So this idea that our experiences leave these like lasting impressions, these seeds.
Yeah.
This is crucial to how Yogācāra views reality. Absolutely.
Okay. And that brings us to another one of the key concepts you sent over, which was the seeds.
Bija.
Bija, yes. This concept of seeds kept popping up in the research.
It's everywhere.
It is. So what are they exactly?
Yeah.
And how do they work within this framework of Alayvijana?
So imagine them as tiny packets of potential
Okay.
arising from our past actions and experiences.
Right.
And they lie dormant within the Alayvijana,
Okay.
waiting for the right conditions to kind of sprout and manifest in our experience.
So every action, thought, or experience plants a seed.
Plants a seed.
And these seeds then influence how we perceive and interact with the world.
Precisely.
Wow.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Those manifestations then create new modified seeds,
Wow.
which get added to the Alayvijana.
Okay.
And this further shapes our future experiences.
So it's not just a one-way street. Our minds are both shaping and being shaped by
This constant interplay.
this interplay of seeds and manifestations.
Exactly. It's a constant dance between potentiality and actuality.
Right.
And it's at the heart of how Yogācāra explains the nature of reality.
This is blowing my mind a little bit, and I know we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah, just the tip of the iceberg.
We still need to delve into those three natures you mentioned earlier,
We do.
and how Yogācāra approaches this whole concept of emptiness.
Well, that good stuff.
There's so much more to explore.
It's a deep dive.
All right, listeners, buckle up. This deep dive into Yogācāra Buddhism is just getting started. Okay, so we've established our minds play a much bigger role in shaping reality than we might realize.
Right.
But how does that actually work in practice? You mentioned earlier these three natures,
Right.
Paratantra, Parikalpita, and Parinaspana.
Big words.
They are. What do those represent, and how do they all fit into this picture?
Yeah, so these three natures are really key to understanding how Yogācāra explains
Reality itself.
the nature of reality, yeah, and our experience within it.
Right.
So Paratantra, the first nature, it's all about interdependent origination,
Okay.
that fundamental Buddhist principle of cause and effect,
Right.
the interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah.
So it's reality itself.
The ground of being.
Exactly.
Well-
The ground of being.
So is it like that butterfly effect idea where like every action, no matter how small, has consequences that ripple out?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
Now, Parikalpita, the second nature,
All right.
this is where things get a little sticky.
Oh.
This is the realm of like our projections,
okay.
our conceptualizations,
Right.
our interpretations of reality.
So it's fueled by our afflictions.
Yes, greed, hatred, delusion, all that.
This is where we get things wrong.
Yeah, basically, it's like looking at the world through a distorted lens,
Okay.
colored by our own baggage.
Limiting beliefs.
All of that.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, even our suffering is based on this conceptualized reality.
Oh, wow.
We're not actually suffering because of reality itself, but because of how we're interpreting reality. Think about it. How often is our suffering caused by, like, clinging to things that are impermanent?
Resisting change.
Exactly.
Wanting things to be different than they are.
Yes, wanting things to be the way we think they should be.
Yeah. That's really insightful.
It's not about denying the reality of those difficult experiences,
Right.
but it's recognizing that our reaction to them,
Is what often creates the suffering.
bingo.
Okay, so it's not about pretending that suffering doesn't exist, but it's about finding a more skillful way to relate to it.
Yes, exactly. And that skillfulness comes from understanding these three natures.
Okay.
When we recognize that suffering is often fueled by that Parikalpita nature,
Right.
by those mental projections and clinging.
Those distortions.
Yeah, we can start to kind of loosen its grip a little bit.
So rather than getting caught in the loop of blaming external circumstances,
Or other people.
other people for our suffering,
Right.
we can look inward and see how our minds are contributing to the problem.
That's a really key insight.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can start to cultivate those qualities that are associated with that Parinaspana nature.
Like wisdom, compassion, equanimity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which help us to kind of navigate even the most challenging experiences with more ease.
More skillfully.
Yes, more skillfully.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
But it also sounds like a lifelong practice.
it is.
Not like a quick fix.
There's no magic bullet here.
Right, exactly.
But, even small shifts in perspective can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And remember, every action, every thought, every intention plants a seed. So even if we can't like single-handedly end suffering in the world,
Right.
we can choose to plant seeds of kindness,
Compassion
understanding in our own lives.
in our interactions.
Exactly.
I love that. Planting seeds of positive change.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful reminder that we all have the power to make a difference.
Starting right here, right now.
Right here, right now.
Absolutely.
In our own little corner of the world.
Mm,
That's really the essence of Yogācāra, isn't it?
I think so.
This recognizing our interconnectedness.
Our capacity for both suffering and liberation.
And this transformative power of our own minds.
It's all connected.
This has been an incredible deep dive so far.
It really is.
Mind-bending, for sure.
Yeah.
But also really insightful.
And hopeful.
And hopeful. I feel like I have a whole new set of lenses to view the world through.
That's beautiful.
And my experience,
I love that.
my own experience in it.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, this is just the beginning.
There's always more to learn.
The exploration of Yogācāra is a lifelong journey.
Of discovery and transformation.
Exactly. It's really stuck with me.
How every action, thought, intention
Yeah.
creates these karmic imprints that shape,
Not just our own experience.
yeah, not just our own experience, but
The world around us.
it's both humbling and empowering at the same time.
It is. And it brings us back to the heart of Yogācāra,
Yeah.
this recognition that our minds are so powerful.
Yeah.
We've been exploring how they shape our perception of reality.
Yeah.
But the real magic happens when we start to consciously direct that creative power.
You're talking about using our minds to create a more positive and wholesome reality.
Yes.
Both for ourselves and for others.
For ourselves and for all beings.
Right. But how do we actually do that? Like, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed by
It's a sheer scale of
the
things.
scale of suffering in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Hmm.
it can feel daunting. But remember that example of the one object, four minds.
Yeah.
It highlights that even our perception of suffering is shaped by our own mental states.
So are you saying that suffering is just a matter of perspective? That it's not actually real?
Not quite. Yogācāra doesn't deny the reality of suffering.
Right.
It acknowledges it's a very real part of the human experience.
Of course.
But it also suggests that our relationship to suffering,
Okay.
how we perceive it, how we react to it,
Can be transformed.
can be transformed.
So it's not about pretending that suffering doesn't exist, but about finding a more skillful way to relate to it.
Yes, exactly.
And that skillfulness comes from.
Understanding those three natures
Right.
when we recognize that suffering is often fueled by that parakalpita nature.
Yeah, by those projections and clinging.
Exactly.
Yeah, that distorted view of reality.
We can start to loosen its grip a little bit.
So rather than getting caught in that loop of blaming external circumstances.
Or other people.
Yeah.
For our suffering, we can look inward.
And see how our own minds are contributing.
To the problem.
That's a huge insight.
It is.
Yeah, and from there we can start to cultivate.
Those qualities associated with the Paternispana nature.
Like wisdom, compassion, equanimity. All those things that help us to move through challenging experiences.
With more ease, with more clarity.
Yeah, more skillfully.
Yes, more skillfully.
Makes sense, but it sounds like a lifelong practice.
It is. Not a quick fix.
No magic bullet here.
Exactly.
But even small shifts in perspective can make a big difference.
Right.
And remember, every action, every thought, every intention plants a seed.
Plants a seed.
So even if we can't single-handedly end suffering in the world,
Right.
we can choose to plant seeds of kindness.
Of compassion, of understanding.
In our own lives, in our interactions with others.
I love that image, planting seeds of positive change.
It's beautiful, right?
It's a reminder that we all have the power to contribute to a more wholesome and compassionate world.
Starting right here, right now.
Right here, right now.
Absolutely.
And that's really the essence of Yogācāra, isn't it?
I think so.
Recognizing our interconnectedness.
Our capacity for both suffering and liberation.
And this power of our own mind.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It really has.
Mind-bending, for sure.
Absolutely.
But so insightful and ultimately really hopeful.
I think so.
I feel like I have a whole new set of lenses to view the world through.
Beautiful.
My own experience in it.
I love that.
A huge thank you to all of you out there listening for joining us on this adventure into Yogācāra Buddhism.
Thanks, everyone.
May this deep dive inspire you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep cultivating those seeds of wisdom and compassion in your own lives.
Beautiful.
Until next time, keep diving deep.